Hello, this is Darren Pearson from darrenscorner.com, and this is part 4 in our web series tutorials of how to create a web-based trivia game. So for part 4, if you navigate to darrenscorner.com and click on tutorials, if you go down to part 4 and click under instructional files, you'll see that we'll be animating the main scene inside here. Plus, we'll be doing a couple other things with some of the buttons in the other scenes just to get the website starting to flow. So if you download part4.zip and open it up, there are 4 files in there. Background, PNG, triviainfo.js, part4start.hype, and then part4actions.txt. So if we open up part4start, should look something like this. There we go. And this is where we should be at the end of part 3, that we've got our splash scene, our main scene, and our credits scene right there. So we have most of our elements in there. We're now going to do some animation in here, but before we do that, we're going to make our buttons work. So if you open up part 4 actions, you'll see it looks a little different. We're first going to go to the splash scene and make that button work. We're going to go in the credits scene, and we've got 2 buttons to do that. And then everything from here on down is animating the main scene. So let's take a look at this. In the splash scene, there we go. I'm going to click on the splash scene right there, and I'm going to select the start button. So we can see right there the start button selected. And I'm going to go into the inspector and click this tab for actions. So inspector actions, and we have a bunch of things. We're going to say on mouse click. So when we click this button, we're going to perform the following actions. It says none right there. From the pull down, I'm going to say jump to scene, and it's going to ask me which scene. I'm going to choose main. And I think I'm going to use the instant transition. So as soon as we click on it, boom, it jumps to the main scene, and the main scene will start. So that's the first part. Next, I'm going to click on our credits scene and make these 2 buttons do something. Play again. When we click on that, we want to jump back to the splash scene. When we click here, I want to go to darrenscorner.com/games. So for this one, there's the play again button. I go to actions, on mouse click, jump to scene. Which scene? I'll choose splash. And again, I'll do an instant transition. And for the More Games button, I go to Actions, on mouse click. Instead of jump to scene, I'm going to say go to URL. And it'll ask me what URL I want to go to. I have to give a complete URL. So I'm going to just type in, start it with http://www.darrenscorner.com/games. There we go. And I won't open it in a new window. I'll just keep it like that. So this is really good. Now we'll see when I preview it. In scene 1, when I click the start button, it jumps to the main scene. Now we haven't figured out how to navigate out of the main scene yet, but that's going to come up in a couple other tutorials here. So we got our buttons working. Now we're going to work on our animation here in the main scene. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get, as soon as the page loads, we want the person to read the questions, see the answers, and then after a couple seconds, the slider starts to move and eventually goes down to 0. So I'm going to make that a little bit smaller so I can see all of these, and I'm going to select the red slider right there. Now again, in my little part 4 actions, I'm right there. In the main scene, select the red slider. So that's the point that we're at. And we're going to animate the width of that. So watch what we do here. I'm going to go to 3 seconds in the timeline right there and hit the record button. So in the properties for red slider, the elements are selected here. If I pull this up, I can see their properties. Opacity, origin left, origin top, size height, size width. I'm going to click this little diamond icon just by size width. So that forces it, whatever other changes I make at 3 seconds, his width is going to be whatever that value is, which I believe is 780 right there. So I've got record turned on, so I'm going to jump to 13 seconds in the timeline. I'm going to verify, yep, I still got red slider selected, the record button's still on, and I'm going to force his width to be 0. And we can see we get a line there, and what happens is the width is 720 at 3 seconds, 0 at 13, and its intermediate values there. So we've done our animation. So that's good. I'm going to turn record off so I don't make any accidental changes. And the one thing I want to do is change my easing. Right now the default easing is ease in, ease out, which means if I hit play, it starts off kind of slow, and then it gets faster right there in the middle, and then you can see he kind of slows down when he gets close to the end. That's okay for many things, but for this I want to use linear easing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a box select of size width. So I hold down my mouse, and I can see both of those diamonds are selected, and I click right here and I say change the easing to linear. So now linear easing, this moves at a uniform rate through the whole animation from 3 seconds to 13 seconds. So there we go, that's good. Okay, so that looks good. Now on top of that, we're going to do a grouping. So in the main scene, I'm going to select both the countdown border and the countdown text, group it, and call it countdown. And you'll see why I'm doing this in just a second. So I'm going to select countdown text, hold down shift, select countdown border, and then I go up here where it says group, and I click that. And notice it calls this group, it's a folder like that, and if I expand it, I can see those two elements inside. But I'm going to select the group and go to unique ID, and it just calls it group. I'm just going to call it countdown, like that. Okay, so now in the timeline, I'm going to select the group. I'm going to jump to 3 seconds. That's when the red bar starts moving. I want this to start moving at the same time. And I hit record. And instead of the width, I'm actually going to change the origin left. So I force it to be that value at 3. I jump to 13 seconds. By the way, if you can't see 13, use this button to zoom in and zoom out of the timeline. Right about there, I'm at 13 seconds. I'll go into my metrics, and my left value, I want it to be 50. There we go. So now we can see he moves from there to there. Now notice the red bar is moving with linear easing. This guy's moving with ease in, ease out. I don't want that. So I'm going to box select both of those points and change his easing right here to linear. So now when I animate, they move along the same way. And it's looking good. Okay, I'm happy with that so far. I'm going to expand now the countdown group and select just the text. And what I want to do is every 15 frames, we are animating at 30 frames a second, so every 15, that's every half a second, I want this to decrement. So I want it to be 1,000 here at 13 seconds and 15 frames. I want it to instantly decrement to 950, 900 here, 850, 800. And if I do that in 50-second increments of 50 for the score, again, this encourages the person to click sooner to get a higher score. I'm going to have the inner HTML change. So I'm going to go to 3 seconds. I've selected not the group, but countdown text. I had to expand that. And under properties, I can see opacity, 2 origins, and 2 sizes. I'm going to click right here and go down to the eyes till I find inner HTML. So I'm just going to, let me see, at 3 seconds, click the diamond property, which forces the inner HTML to be 1,000 at that point. Now I'm going to jump to 315 right there. And we could do this a couple different ways. I think the easiest is with this selected from the pull-down menu, I'm going to say Edit, Edit Elements. Oops, I forgot one thing. I got to hit Record. So I'm at 3 seconds, I hit Record. And now at 3.5, 315, I'm going to say Edit, Edit Elements Inner HTML, and I'll just type in 950. There we go. So you can see it's 1,000, and then instantly if I zoom in, we can see at 314 it's 1,000, 315 it immediately changes to 950. So that's good. Now it's a little tedious, but we just have to do that about 19 more times. So record button's on, I jump to 4 seconds. Again, I make sure countdown text is selected. Edit elements, inner HTML, and I make this 900. Click outside there. And this will take a second or two. But again, keeping record on. Select countdown timer, edit elements, inner HTML, 850. Now we could do this with JavaScript, manually change it, but I think this is a good introduction to using the timeline. We can see all those diamond points shows where we have a change. So let me just keep going here. Edit inner HTML, 800, and I'm just unselecting, clicking outside here to kind of have it take effect. Countdown text, edit, inner HTML. 750 at 6 seconds. Oops, I always got to select the timer. Edit, inner HTML. 700. 6.5 seconds. 650. 7 seconds. 600. 7.5 seconds. 550. 8 seconds. 500. 8.5 seconds. 450. 400. Over halfway there. 350. 300. 250. 200. If we were to do this with JavaScript, we'd probably want to set and clear intervals to make the changes here. 150, 12 seconds. We want it to be 100, 12.5. 50 points, and at 13, 0. There we go. So we got that. I'm going to turn record off. Basically, we just did this section right there. So we went to 3, 315, 4, 415. We do this 18 more times, decrementing that, and going on from there. So now, if I preview, let's preview the whole thing. I see the splash page. I mouse over, click it, and we see that. And then at 3 seconds, 950, 900, 850. You can see it decrements down. And bingo. Works the way we expect it to. So, everything's looking good. I'm going to do a file save. If you want to test that out in other browsers, you're more than welcome to. But that's the end of part 4. And now it's time to move on to part 5. Thank you.